So hello everyone, welcome to EduTap. I am Surbhi and this is Perspective 360 Degree, your one-stop solution for current affairs, descriptive writing and answer writing evaluation. First of all, if the audio see the screen section, and then we'll begin today's discussion. Good evening, Sejal. Is everything clear? Audio, video clear? Yes, Sejal, thank you so much. I'm fine. Due to some technical reasons, the session that was proposed to be conducted on Monday for informal economy that could not be conducted. So there was no replacement or recorded session for Monday. We postponed it to be conducted on Wednesday itself. So today you'll be getting the complete session. And also to remind you, this is a live session that you'll be having with me. So you can post in the chat section to get responses immediately. Good evening, Nitya. Gagana, hello. So if everything is okay, if the voice and video both are clear, then let's proceed. Thank you, Rohit, and welcome all of you. Welcome, Rohit. Lucifer, Neha, good evening and a very warm welcome all of you. So the topic that we have for today is the informal sector. A lot of you are still joining and I'm really happy to see that many of you are online and that too on time. So it gives me great happiness to see you all back and see you all motivated for your preparation. The topic that we have today is the informal sector. And with regards to informal sector, whatever question you see, it is going to be very simple. But to answer that, you need to substantiate it with data and some good points, some good facts. All right, so that is what we'll be seeing today. So I hope there is no lag in the video, guys. Do you see any lag in the video or in the audio? All right, so no lag and no issues. So if you look at Economic and Political Weekly, not the current issue of 2nd March, but the issue of 24th of Feb, which was the previous issue, there was a topic called, there was an essay on informal sector in India. The essay is mostly research based, but it also gave us an important topic to cover, which has been asked in the previous years also and which has been covered by various newspapers time and again. For example, in December itself, in December 2023 itself, Mint covered India's informal sector may be adding more value to its economy than we know. So informal sector also has a positive side to it. Secondly, this is from Deccan Herald, again talking about informal workers in India, that they are invisible, unenumerated and exploited. This is from August 2023. So as you can see that during the entire year, in every month, there is one or the other news or conversation regarding the informal workers or the informal sector in India. If you're somebody who's confusing the informal sector workers with gig workers or platform workers, then that's not that's not right. Gig workers or platform economy is a topic that we have separately taken on Perspective 360 Degree in the first week itself. So kindly refer to first 5 lectures of Perspective 360 for getting an understanding of that. First of all, let's look at the importance of this topic from your exam point of view. So for those of you preparing for RBI Grade B exam, in the economic and social issues part, there is a topic called poverty alleviation and employment generation in India. The similar topic can be seen in NABARD Grade A syllabus as well. So it's the same topic that's overlapping for both the syllabus. For SEBI Grade A aspirants, there is no direct topic that is related to employment generation or informal sector in the country. But for English writing skills, this topic holds great relevance. Now let's look at the expected question. See, if somebody talks to you about informal economy, the first thing that should be clear in your mind is the definition of it. Secondly, the reasons for it. Why do we talk so much about informal economy or informal jobs in India? Why is informal economy present in the country and is it increasing or decreasing with time? Why is it perpetuating? So definition and the reasons for its perpetuation, these two things should be very, very clear. Secondly comes the point that why is informal economy in so much conversation? Are there some problems associated with it? Are there some challenges? And if there are some challenges, then is the government doing anything about it? Because it's the responsibility of the government to look after your economy and how people are leading their lives. So we'll try to cover all these aspects according to our today's question with the help of today's questions of today's question. So what are the reasons for the prevalence of informal sector in India and what are the challenges ailing it? So this question has been taken for discussion today. What are the challenges ailing it? And you can also see a question like what are the features associated with informal sector in India? So that could also be one part of it. That could also be one way to look at it. And we'll answer this in 600 words for 15 marks. All right. Before that, before starting any answer, you should always plan how you're going to write your answer. If you have a rough pad, rough sheet, always plan what will you write in the first part, what data point will you use in your introduction, and whatever will you say for the body part. Usually, our tendency is that whatever appears in the question, we try to answer it first, but that's not how your answer writing should proceed. You should start by talking about the topic. Start with focus on the topic or theme. In this case, we'll give an overview of the informal sector in our country. So that's how we'll begin. Then secondly, the reasons which have been asked will not be addressed in the introduction. We'll talk about the reasons in the body part 1. We'll ascribe a separate part to it to talk about reasons separately. And our aim should be for all GS based questions, whether it's for ESI, FM, rural development or agriculture, our aim should be to write our answer in points using subheadings as much as possible, so that we make it very clear to the examiner that we understood the topic and we are having the capability to answer it logically and rationally. So taking a pointers approach is the best way forward, which we follow on Perspective 360 as well. So body part 1 will contain reasons. The second part of the question is what are the challenges ailing it. Here we'll be talking about what are the problems associated, why is informal sector problematic for the country. So that will be the challenges part, that is body part 2 will focus on that part. Kindly make sure that you're not repeating information in any of the parts. Secondly, these two are not written in paragraphs or not written in one paragraph only. The examiner should be able to see that these two parts have been separated by adequate space, because you'll not have bold points or any other thing to separate various parts of the answer. As you can see, the question is not asking us about government's role or what the government has done, but we also have a final paragraph for every answer without which you should not end your answers, and that is the way forward. So the last paragraph can be used for providing solutions, for talking about what government has been doing to provide solutions to the challenges discussed. Thirdly, it can also be used to provide a summary. So we will make the best use of it, and we'll try to sum up this answer within 600 words itself. And my approach would be to give you complete and holistic information regarding this topic. So that's how it's going to be. First of all, you need to have understanding about what is informal sector to be able to write an introduction on it. So informal sector or the unorganized sector is everything which is not formal or which is unorganized. So to have an understanding of informal sector, you should on the contrary, you should better understand what is formal sector. See, if you are into a formal job, you're working with some company or some startup that is registered with the government under the Companies Act or any other such acts. Any company that is registered is, secondly, you get regular salaries there, you're a regular employee, or even if a part-time employee, your employment is registered. Thirdly, you get some holidays, some sick leaves. You also might get some pension benefits, or you might be paid for not working on Sundays or Saturdays, whatever the policy of your company is. So basically, organized sector jobs or formal sector jobs make it easier for both the employer and employee to work. Also, when you're employed in the organized sector, you're liable to pay taxes, because everything, your salary disbursements and whatever earnings are there for the company and for you are reflected in your and the company's bank account. So income tax or GST, it becomes very easier for the government to extract. So basically, if you have to talk about informal sector, the first thing that comes to your mind is social security is not there, paid leaves are not there, sick leaves are not there. And if a worker is not working, let's say on Sundays, then most of the times they're not paid for not working on certain days. And since, pension facilities will obviously not be there, so social security is not there in the informal sector. Job security is not there. Jobs are mostly based on seasons. All right. So, and there is no promise of employment that we talk about in the informal sector. So if you have to talk about informal sector, if you have to start with definition, though in this answer we'll not be beginning with definition, but this is for your reference, and this has been given to us by OECD. So OECD categorizes informal sector as that people have informal jobs if their employment relationship, that means the relationship between them and the organization they are working for, is in law or in practice not subject to national labor legislation. That means labor laws are not followed, minimum wages are not there, regular wages are not there, maternity leave is not there, and other income taxation not followed. Social protection, no sick leave is there, no retirement benefits, no pension benefits, or entitlement to certain employment benefits. For example, advance notice of dismissal, severance pay, paid annual or sick leave, etc. That is not there. So that is informal economy or the unorganized sector. Now, do you think that unorganized sector is prevalent in India? If you think that the unorganized sector or the informal sector is prevalent in India, then kindly let me know in the chat section what percentage of people are employed in the informal sector. What according to you, what is the percentage that is according to you the employment in the informal sector in India? So, I hope the definition here is clear, that people, they do have jobs, but they do not have the benefits that come with jobs. They can be dismissed anytime, they might not have any social protection and things like that. So by the time you send me your percentages, let me just go back to the chat section. Okay, video is lagging. Is it lagging still? Is it still lagging, guys, the video? Probably that's network issue on my side. And also there has been some issue with YouTube as well since yesterday. So maybe that's the problem. Okay guys, I'm waiting for your messages. So guys, okay, the video might be lagging, but is the audio clear? 30%. 30%, around 60 to 70%. See, if the audio is clear, then I think we can manage this session, if the slides are not lagging. Alright, my face could not be visible, you might not be able to see my expressions, but if the video is alright, greater than 50%, more than 50% is informal. So you'll be surprised to know that around 90% people in your country who are into jobs, they are working in the informal sector. So that's, that figure is itself, which is scary for our country, that 90% of the people, they are employed, but they don't have any of these. No labor legislations are followed in their employment, no income taxation, no social protection above all. And they're not even paid on time or paid regularly. That means the Minimum Wages Act is not followed. And if they're not paid on time or paid regularly, which means they will not be able to save, and since no social protection is there, that means the government will have to provide for these people once these people come off, once these people get old. That means pension is not there provided by the companies. Hence, the government will have to provide for these people, or these people will land into poverty. All right. Thank you, Lucifer, Nikhil, Prudhvi, good evening. So just focus on the audio, guys, because yes, there is some internet issue on my end, plus there is some problem with YouTube as well. So 90% is the figure. Now in the introduction, to focus on this question, we have been asked to talk about reasons for the prevalence of informal sector in India. That means you have been asked a 2-degree question. The 1-degree question is which directly asks you what is the definition of informal sector. On the second level or on the 2-degree level, when you go, what happens is the examiner is asking you about a higher concept, and when the higher concept is being asked in the question, then you usually do not start with definition. All right, so in the introduction, basically definition is not what we are taking the approach here. What you can otherwise do is talk about informal sector in India or in the world generally. All right. So we are talking about that why informal sector is prevalent. That will be covered in the reasons, but informal sector is highly prevalent because most of the people in our country or in the world have not received benefits that erupted out of globalization or economic growth. If you know about the Oxfam report, you know that rich are getting richer and poor are becoming poorer. And these poor people or the middle class people are getting into the informal sector because they are not benefiting out of the economic growth that is happening nationwide or worldwide. So a very large segment of population has been unable to capture benefits of economic growth by being excluded from the formal capitalistic production distribution processes. If you have heard about the trickle down theory means if you make the top lot of people richer, if these people are richer, then ultimately this economic growth will trickle down, and people who are in poverty, they will also receive one or the other benefit. That means poor people's standard of living will also rise with time. Their living capacity will also increase with time. But trickle down theory has not seen the light of the day, especially in developing countries like India. Living standards have not risen as they were promised at the time of LPG reforms or with the help of other reforms as well. Hence, a lot of people are odd jobs or working in the informal sector. So as a consequence, a large share of workforce has been forced to depend on non-farm, that means non-agricultural, informal economic activities. So earlier it was thought that this sector, that means the informal sector, will decrease with time. Number of people employed in this sector will decrease with time, but we have not seen that happening. So earlier it was thought that this sector would either wither away with growth or transform into a vibrant segment of emerging capitalism in the global south. But surprisingly, instead of withering away, the informal sector is expanding along with economic growth in developing countries like India. So informal sector is not decreasing. In fact, you see the organized sector also, where employer-employee relation is fixed. There, in like those corporations also, you might see that maternity leave is not there, sick leave is not there, pension benefits are not there, or people are not paid for holidays. So you might see a hybrid model between the formal and informal sector that is emerging in India. Gig economy is also a part of this. So this sector is not going away, but why is it rising? That will be seen in body part 1. So some data with regards to informal sector, talking about that, is important in the introduction itself. So while the informal sector, it produces almost half of your country's GDP, more than 90% of the overall workforce is employed. So yes, if it is producing more than half of country's GDP, then 50% of workforce, or let's say 40% of workforce, should have been ideally employed. But almost 90%, we call it somewhere between 85 to 90% of people in your country are employed in the informal sector, and 50% of GDP is coming from there. And if you have to give some example of informal sector in India, so these are like small and scattered units. For example, a small kirana shop could be there, where person is employed just to provide with goods to the people, packaging and all, and making taking billings and all, or just handing over things from one corner of the shop to the other, or to the people who are coming to buy goods from these kirana stores. So these people, they do not have fixed employment, they do not have any other benefits. If they're not even allowed to take leaves, or let's say on Sundays or any other days. So the unorganized informal sector is characterized by small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of the government. These could be where brick kilns, for example, and there could be other various activities, for example small restaurants or dhabas, where people's employment is not registered. All of it characterizes informal sector. So now moving on to the Let's Delve Deeper section. Here we'll talk about the reasons for the prevalence of informal sector in the country. So if you have to talk about reasons, we have 4 reasons for the prevalence of this sector in our India or in our country. The first reason that comes here is the population growth itself, because number of people is so high, and the number of jobs that we have available in the formal sector are not adequate enough to be able to absorb these people. Hence, population growth is one of the it is leading to an increase in the labor force, and formal sector is not able to absorb this growing labor force, resulting in a large number of people seeking employment in the informal sector. The second one is rapid urbanization. Now see, you have seen, if you have taken discussions with me in the past, you know that agriculture is not as remunerative as it was back in the 20th century. So since agriculture is becoming less remunerative with time, hence the hidden employment that was there in agriculture, that is now decreasing, or disguised employment, or the underemployment that was present in agriculture. That means if 10 people were working on a family farm, now 5 out of those people, they plan to move to cities, or they plan to take up other jobs to get more income to the household, to get more money into the household. So rapid urbanization, first of all, is happening because many people are migrating from rural areas to urban areas in search of better salaries, in search of like regular jobs. And rapid urbanization, that is also leading to an increase in the formal sector. Why? Because leading to an increase in the informal sector, because formal sector is not able to absorb such people. So rapid urbanization, it has led to the growth of informal settlements and slums in cities. That is right, that occurs, that we study in urbanization, that occurs as a result of migration. Because let's say a city like Delhi, which receives the highest number of migrants in any particular year in your country. So Delhi's authorities are not informed that today 100 people from XYZ state will be migrating to Delhi. So authorities of Delhi should be prepared with more water or provision of more food for these 100 migrants. Delhi authorities, they're not informed. So that is unplanned and rapid urbanization that is happening. And when people migrate to urban areas, they often find it difficult to access formal employment opportunities and are forced to work in the informal sector, because it takes time for them to settle down. It takes time for them to understand the ecosystem of surroundings, and just to afford a meaningful life for themselves, and to pay for their expenses, they have to move to the informal sector and take up jobs there. And why are they forced to take up jobs in the informal sector? Because of this fourth point that we will be discussing, that is lack of education and skills in majority of population in your country. But first of all, let's talk about the third one, structural changes in the economy. See, informal economy or informal employment was not as high in India as it is now. But what happened in 1990s was the LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization. So before the LPG reforms, India had a small manufacturing sector. We had cotton textile mills and other manufacturing units were there. Now these units, after LPG reforms, they could not survive the competition from foreign players, and hence this manufacturing, it was stopped, or it became unprofitable because people were not purchasing these goods. So manufacturing sector, it saw a downfall after LPG reforms. Secondly, agriculture sector also, it could not remain as remunerative as it was before. Hence, structural changes in the economy, they caused the increase in service sector. So service sector boom we saw after LPG reforms, and you know that service sector contributes towards GDP the most. Out of all the three sectors, it is the service sector that is contributing the highest percentage towards your GDP. Now, everybody cannot be employed in the service sector. You can employ people in agriculture because a lot of skills are not required. You can also employ people in industries or manufacturing units, because manufacturing units have the capability to employ everybody from zero skill to highest skilled, especially when it comes to MSMEs, micro, small and medium scale industries. But the service sector is peculiar because it cannot employ all types of people. It cannot employ uneducated people, and it cannot employ unskilled people. And recently, and we saw that foundational skills are lacking in our country, especially amongst teenagers. So that's why structural changes in the economy, they have led to increase in informal sector, because most of the people cannot be employed in the service sector. So liberalization of Indian economy in 1990s led to a shift from agriculture and manufacturing to the services sector, which has resulted in a decline in formal employment opportunities, pushing more people into the informal sector. And finally, all these three reasons, they are applicable because of one and the final reason, that is lack of education and skills amongst Indian population. In fact, you can also have this as your first point here in the reasons part. So lack of education and skills, it prevents most of the people from seeking jobs in the formal sector. It has been seen that employers in our country, they are looking for good people to work with who have the right amount of skills, and people there are in like very high numbers who are unemployed in the country, and the gap is of skills and education, and it can be bridged only by when you upskill people and when you provide with quality education. So a significant proportion of Indian population lacks access to quality education and skill development opportunities. It makes it difficult for them to find formal employment, leading to an increase in the informal sector. So it's not that jobs are not present in your country, jobs are there, job providers are there, people want to have their bases in India, companies want to establish themselves in India, but adequate skills are not there. People with adequate skills are not present. So just excuse me for this editing problem that has occurred because of the internet issue. Now moving on to the next part, that is challenges. But before discussing all the challenges, or the first 2 points talk about features also. So before moving on to that part, I will just get back to the chat section to take any doubts that you have, and if there are no doubts, then we'll move on to body part 2. Yes, Sejal, that's right. Above 50% is contribution of service in the GDP. And also, guys, I hope there is no lag with the audio. And if the video lag has gone away, then just let me know in the chat section. Good evening, Prithvi. That's okay, Sejal. That happens with everybody. If you go for a short break because of some other exams, if you have to take a short break, then just give yourself few days to come back to warm up again, and then you will be back in form. Don't worry about anything like that. Okay, thank you, Veenu ma'am. And alright, so no doubts coming. So guys, this question was previously framed to talk about features associated with the informal sector, but finally we are talking about the challenges. So the first 2 points are mostly about features of informal sector. I request you that you don't have to include it here. I will add this as a separate slide. The challenges that are coming from informal sector are from point number 3 to 9. So when you talk about features, let's say let's discuss the features part also. If a question has been asked regarding features of informal sector, like what are the advantages, disadvantages, that is one thing. What are the challenges associated with the informal sector, that is another thing. But what are the features? What are the special points about informal sector in India? So the special things can be that it helps in employment generation, it helps in poverty alleviation. So these two are good features. These two are special points which are talking positively about informal sector. So because obviously there are so many people employed, almost 90% of the jobs in your country are in the informal sector. So poverty alleviation is occurring. People are finding employment even though it is not coming from the unorganized sector. People don't have to migrate to other cities to find these jobs, because informal sector, it is present everywhere in the country, not just in bigger cities or metropolitan cities like Delhi and Mumbai only. So if a question on features is asked, my request would be that you talk about the positive sides also. You can have one body part for the answer and talk about all the features. The second thing can be done is talk about positive features in half of the answer and negative features in rest of the answer. The negative features of informal sector will very much coincide with the challenges which are associated with the informal sector. So these are all the negative features. For example, it leads to gender disparity. Informal sector causes gender disparity because all kinds of people are not employed in the informal sector, and since equal wages are not there for men and women, hence gender disparities come in. Then inadequate safety and health hazards, especially in the mining industry. Then irregularity in minimum wages, or irregularity or minimum wages act is not followed. Then long hours of work, non-applicability of social security measures, lack of proper physical environment, and non-applicability. Okay, that's another one, non-applicability of social security measures. This PPT has some issues here, but don't worry, we'll complete this topic holistically. So first 2 points are just the features, rest of them will focus on the challenges. So if you have to talk about first feature, it is employment generation. The informal sector has been successful in providing employment opportunities to a large number of people, especially those who are unable to find work in the formal sector. Then the second one is poverty alleviation. So informal sector jobs, although they pay less, but they at least provide money to those people who would have otherwise been unemployed. So extreme poverty, as you saw in the previous lecture also, that extreme poverty or destitution has come down to almost 5% in your country according to the recent reports. So according to recent reports, destitution has come down to 5%. Why it has come down? Has the government provided so many jobs? No. It is the informal sector that has helped in bringing down poverty levels. Now from point number 3, we'll be talking about the challenges associated with the informal sector, and the first one is gender disparities. So women, they are disproportionately represented in the informal sector because they are working in low paying and precarious jobs. It has been seen that if you move to, let's say, a restaurant or a normal a small scale business or a shop, let's say, if there are 2 employees working, one of them is a man, the other one is a woman, then the woman would have almost 50% lesser salary than what the man is getting. This has been suggested by many reports and data, recent ones. So it leads to more gender disparities. It sends an idea into the society that women cannot perform as good as men, and no matter how much they perform, they always have to be paid lesser than men. So this perpetuates gender inequalities and limits women's access to resources and opportunities. Another challenge that we have here is inadequate health and safety standards. So most industries, especially mining, have inadequate safety and health standards. That that in mining industry, in fact, many a times children are also employed, because sometimes in the mine you have to send people to clear out blockages or to carry out mining actually. So children or very lean people, they are employed in such industries, and health and safety followed. Environmental hazards are evident in the case of informal sector. Then finally, you have irregularity in minimum wages. So either the salaries are not paid on time. If they are paid on time, then they're lesser than what has been promised. Thirdly, whatever salary is being dispersed, despite of not being in time or lesser than what is promised, it is very much lesser than government standard or the state government standard of minimum rate of wages. Then finally, you have long hours of work in the informal sector. You might go to a local shop and you might see that a person who is employed there for provision of basic needs by the shopkeeper does not get a leave on Sunday, does not get a leave on many government holidays as well. So long working hours are there. One, they report early in the morning and go back home late at night. Secondly, leave benefits are not there for them. They do not get any holidays. So there are many times when a worker cannot be economically active. For instance, due to biological circumstances such as sickness or old age on account of personal calamities such as an accident or unemployment. So there are no social security measures to provide risk coverage and ensure maintenance of basic living standards in times of crisis such as unemployment or health issues. So long hours of work compiled with lack of social security measures. For example, unfortunately, if a person undergoes an accident or an illness and she is not available to work for, let's say, 4 months in a row, then there is nobody to provide for his family and nobody to cover expenses. Alright, so that's about it. Then lack of proper physical environment, I think that has been covered, and non-applicability of social security measures, that is again a repetition. Now we'll be moving on to the way forward. I will make sure that there are no such editing issues in the PDF that I share with you. This is clearly because of the web, because of the internet issue that we are facing today. So in the way forward, first of all, do you think of anything that the government has done to provide for these workers? Yes, Minimum Wages Act is there. Government also is running MG Narega or Manrega scheme in rural India for unskilled people, for unskilled employment. The government is also providing Skill India options, skilling options for many people who do not have adequate skills. So yes, the government is taking a lot of efforts. And first of all, talk about the constitution. So in the legal initiatives like the Employment State Insurance Act, Minimum Wages Act for labor welfare, According to DPSPs, all these acts, they have been passed by the government, and there are a lot of reforms that have been carried out. Then there is National Commission for Enterprises in Unorganized Sector. So organized sector is definitely covered by various laws, but the unorganized sector also has a separate commission or a separate organization to address challenges faced by the informal economy. Then poverty related schemes are there. MG Narega is there, Nehru Rozgar Yojana is there, Swarna Jayanti Shahri Rozgar Yojana for providing employment in urban areas. In rural areas, you have the MG Narega scheme, but Swarna Jayanti Shahri Rozgar Yojana is there for urban areas. Then Urbanized Workers Social Security Act of 2008 and schemes like Atal Pension Yojana. Also, you know that there are street hawkers which do not have adequate social security benefits. The government has been providing them loans up to 10,000 rupees for reclaiming their businesses after the COVID-19 pandemic, and Atal Pension Yojana has been marketed well, especially amongst poor people and the middle class people. To it is basically a contributory pension scheme. The government also contributes towards it, and anyone who wants to avail a pension beyond the age of 60 years, when people just want to retire and they're not covered with pension benefits in any of the other schemes or by their organization, they can avail benefits of Atal Pension Yojana. So that's a very strong step that has been taken by the government, and a lot of expenses are involved on government's end for this scheme. Then there are skill development programs including Skill India Mission, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which address the need for skills in the informal economy. Now, for the way forward, we are also providing that overhauling labor laws. Now, labor laws are mostly passed by state governments, and these laws differ from state to state. Yes, laws are there, but awareness is not there. And even if awareness is there, then despite of the high level of awareness, people don't stand up for their rights because unemployment is so high. There is always somebody to replace people in the informal sector, and because of high levels of unemployment, people are unable to take a stand. They feel that whatever money we are getting, in fact, I see that in the education sector also, that whatever money people are getting, they start working at that because they know that unemployment is so high. So with the focus on flexible work arrangements and protection of the right to associate freely, that has to be brought out. Then preventing occupational hazards, that should be one of the priorities of government, and it requires innovative measures because reporting of such hazards, that is the first step that the government has to take. And it has to come from the informal sector. If people don't know where to report the informal hazards that have taken place while working for some businessman during the daytime or the night time, then they will not know. If they don't know where to report, then they will not know how to seek justice. So reporting has to be substantiated by the government itself. Then local institutional support, the local government can be involved for extending social protection progressively, and sensitization efforts targeting policymakers, municipal authorities, panchayats in rural areas, and labor inspection services. Here, labor officers or enforcement officers are of utmost importance. And then health protection in the informal sector. The Ayushman Bharat scheme is contributing highly towards social protection in terms of health in the informal sector. But again, awareness is the problem, and reach of healthcare services, that is the problem, that dispensaries or hospitals, they're not available everywhere. So in the conclusion, you can end by emphasizing on the fact that yes, informal sector is important for the country because most of the people are employed there. So yes, it is the backbone of your country, it is the backbone of your economy, but it is both a challenge and an opportunity. Opportunity means that yes, it is benefiting you. Challenge is that there are so many issues associated with people who are working in this sector, and their lives are at stake. So while it has provided employment for and income for millions of people, it also highlights the need for inclusive and sustainable development policies that address the needs of this vulnerable population. So yes, it is the backbone of economy. The nation's quality of life hinges on things becoming better for masses of informally employed people. So improving the conditions of these workers, that should be the aim of the government from the perspective of inclusive growth, because that is what assumes significance in a country like India. So the question for today is going to be this: what are the reasons for the prevalence of informal sector in India, and what are the features associated with it. We have talked about 2 features and rest of them were challenges, but the question today will focus on the features only. You will get the entire answer in the form of PDF on our Telegram channel by tomorrow morning. And excuse us for the web issues or the internet issues that have occurred that have led to a lag, and the editing issues as well. I'll make sure everything is covered up for in the PDF, but make sure that you're not just writing challenges, you're writing features. And if there are any other features from your end that you see when you look at an informal when you look at a person who's employed in the informal sector. See, I'll give you one example. Why do people in our country, they want to have government jobs only? Why do we prepare for government jobs? Because government jobs, they provide us with social security. When you turn old, you will get regular pension if you subscribe to the pension schemes. That you will get a lot of leaves. Your salary will be credited in your account on time. That you will have job security. You will not have to switch companies one after the other. So just relate it with yourself and just see that why could you not, why do you think that government job is the best option for you in a country like India? And these could be the reasons for others also. And if these are the reasons for others, that means the 90% of the people who are employed in the informal sector, they are not getting such benefits. And that is where your answer should start framing in your mind. Just relate it with your own life, with your own belief system, and then the answer should be easier to write. If you have any feedback for us, then kindly let us know in the comment section. Subscribe to our channel at the earliest, because a lot of initiatives will be helping you that will be aired on our channel. You can write to us or contact us through this email ID or this phone number for any of the paid courses that EduTap is running or that we provide. Thank you for today's discussion. Thank you for your patience throughout Monday because of the non-presence of any session of Perspective 360. We are willing to run these sessions till your examinations, and even after that, till you clear your examination and make it to the final list. And our team is highly motivated to provide you with the best content. But here, we are at the 75th lecture. I urge you to get back to all the PDFs that we have discussed and give a light reading for them. Even if you're somebody who has been with me since day one, by this time you are in need of very good quality revision. So kindly go back to the videos, and by this time you should have developed the habit of thinking regarding new topics. You should have developed the idea of understanding a question, how to approach the question. The answer blueprint should be very clear to you by now, and some level of independence should have been incorporated in your answer writing skills. So I'm sure that answer writing is not as tough for you now as it was before while we started taking these sessions back in September. And with time gradually, as these sessions add up to your knowledge and you cover the static portions of your syllabus as well, descriptive writing is definitely going to become a cakewalk for you if you stick to these sessions. Okay, so thank you all of you. I see a lot of thank yous coming. Thank you for the patience once again. May God bless all of you. All the very best for your preparation, and I will see you with another live session on Friday. Take care and goodbye. Keep working very, very hard till you achieve your dreams. Okay, bye-bye.